The real reason for all of this hostility is because some perceive that what is happening in Grenada can lay the basis for a new socio-economic and political path of development. They give all kinds of reasons and excuses, some of them credible, some utter rubbish. There's an interesting one that we saw very recently in a secret report of the State Department. I want to tell you about that one, so you can reflect on that one. That secret report made this point, that Grenada is different to Cuba and Nicaragua, and the Grenada Revolution is in one sense even worse, I'm using their language, than the Cuban and Nicaraguan revolutions, because the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada speaks English and therefore can communicate directly to the people of the United States. But I want to tell you what that same report also said, and said that also made us very dangerous. And that is that the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada are predominantly black. They said that 95% of our population is black, and they had a correct statistic. And if we have 95% of predominantly African origin in our country, then we can have a dangerous appeal to 30 million black people in the United States.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today, we'll be honoring Maurice Bishop, an outstanding Caribbean prince who was born on May 29, 1944 in Aruba. His family relocated to Grenada. Maurice Bishop was a Grenadian revolutionary and the leader of the New Jew movement. The name Grenada got its name from the Spanish sailors passing by the country. Because of its hills reminded the sailors and reminisced of their homeland. The country changed control several times between Britain and France until it was awarded to Britain in 1783 through the Treaty of Versailles. In 1974, Grenada declared independence from Britain. Bishop was an exceptional and brilliant communicator whose empathy for the masses was a driving force of the Grenadian Revolution of 1979 that overthrew the corrupt administration of Eric Gairy. In 1979, the socialist Jew movement had overthrown the corrupt and unpopular dictator Eric Gairy in an almost bloodless coup. For years, Gairy ruled through fear. His secret police, the Mongoose Gang, which had been supplied by the U.S. government. The revolution launched by the New Jew movement was immensely popular. In 1979, Bishop's party staged a revolution and disposed Gairy, who was out of the country addressing the United Nations. Bishop became Prime Minister of Grenada and suspended the Constitution. Among Bishop's main principles were workers' rights, black empowerment, women's rights, and the struggle against racism and apartheid. Maurice Bishop began to build a close diplomatic relationship with Cuba and the Soviet Union. After he took power, he initiated a number of projects, most significantly, the building of a new international airport on the country's southern tip. In just 4 years, unemployment was cut from 49% to 14%. Advertising of cigarettes and booze promoted on the billboards throughout the country was replaced by black empowerment slogans such as "Forward ever, backwards never."
It says there are over 700 political prisoners on the island. The number of prisoners far exceeds the capacity of the jails. So Bishop has ordered the construction of prison farms similar to those existing in Cuba. We have some prison farms now. They are warehousing prisoners in semi-trailers received from Cuba, in which they hold them for many hours under the intense heat of the sun that practically cooks them. We cooking prisoners now in warehouses. This is the same year when if you drive around Grenada, you see the most amount of signs of activity of building. When more and more nationals from abroad are coming back home and building new houses. When more and more activity is going on in all of the other areas in terms of the programs of the revolution. Today, the people are enjoying many more democratic rights and freedoms and are much more involved and participating in the building of our revolutionary process. These people understand very well that a revolution means a new situation. Revolution means that the abuses and excesses of the violent, reactionary, and disruptive minority has to be crushed so that the majority interest can prevail. When the Americans had their revolution in 1776, it took them 13 years to call their election. They talk about detainees, but when the American Revolution came in 1776, 600,000 people were detained in this country. 100,000 Americans in the first week of the American Revolution. 100,000 fled to Canada. Thousands were locked up without charge or trial. Hundreds were shot. And the counter-revolutionaries after the American Revolution, they had no right to vote. They had no right to teach. They had no right to preach. They had no right to a job. Their land was confiscated without payment. So when the falsifiers of history try to pretend that the American Revolution was a Boston Tea Party, was a very bloody Tea Party.
On October 19, 1983, Bernard Cord, once a very good friend of Maurice Bishop, and along with Huston Houston, launched a coup within the revolutionary government and took power for 3 days. Bishop was captured and put under house arrest and later released by a group of demonstrators. Bishop, and along with 7 others, including cabinet ministers of the government, was killed by a 4-man army firing squad.
Grenada. The island is only twice the size of the District of Columbia, with a total population of about 110,000 people. Grenada and a half dozen other Caribbean islands here were, until recently, British colonies. They are now independent states and members of the British Commonwealth. While they respect each other's independence, they also feel a kinship with each other and think of themselves as one people. In 1979, trouble came to Grenada. Maurice Bishop, a protege of Fidel Castro, staged a military coup and overthrew the government which had been elected under the Constitution left to the people by the British. He sought the help of Cuba in building an airport, which he claimed was for tourist trade, but which looked suspiciously suitable for military aircraft, including Soviet-built long-range bombers. The 6 sovereign countries and 1 remaining colony are joined together in what they call the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. The 6 became increasingly alarmed as Bishop built an army greater than all of theirs combined. Obviously, it was not purely for defense. In this last year or so, Prime Minister Bishop gave indications that he might like better relations with the United States. He even made a trip to our country and met with senior officials at the White House and the State Department. Whether he was serious or not, we'll never know. On October 12th, a small group in his militia seized him and put him under arrest. They were, if anything, more radical and more devoted to Castro's Cuba than he had been. Several days later, a crowd of citizens appeared before Bishop's home, freed him, and escorted him toward the headquarters of the military council. They were fired upon. A number, including some children, were killed and Bishop was seized. He and several members of his cabinet were subsequently executed, and a 24-hour shoot-to-kill curfew was put in effect. Grenada was without a government, its only authority exercised by a self-proclaimed band of military men.
Brothers and sisters, it took Maurice Bishop 4 years to develop the country, nationalize resources, and advance Grenada's education system, and increase tourism. Brothers and sisters, let's honor this Caribbean prince for giving us forward ever, backwards never.